bring the June 4th New London Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, and we're going to start off tonight with a public hearing, so I'm going to make a motion to go into a public hearing, right? I have to do that. Oh, and the reason for the public hearing is to discuss the special town meeting that will be held pursuant to RSA 31(5)(b)(2) to cure the procedural defect of the May 14th town meeting to reconsider Articles number 3 and number 9. So moved. All in favor? Aye. Okay, and Kim, I'm throwing this over to you.
Okay, thank you. So, the reason we are having this special town meeting is to cure the procedural defect that occurred when we had March town meeting and did not specify the day, date, and time for the meeting to reconsider Articles 3 and 9. So this meeting will ask voters to ratify the March town meeting and the May 14th meeting where we reconsidered Articles 3 and 9. In the past, mistakes, procedural defects like this were taken care of by having towns petition the legislature, and they would add on to a bill that the procedural defect was noted and ratified by the legislature. Because these kinds of defects happen not regularly, and certainly this one should never have happened, but sometimes there are defects that include late posting. A newspaper may forget to put in a post of a meeting, and so the date is off. So the legislature adopted this statute to allow towns to do it locally. They can have this special town meeting where voters all come together and decide they understand what happened, and then they vote to ratify it. So that's what's going to happen on June 18th.
Does anybody in the audience here want to make any comments or ask any questions about this tonight? Go ahead, if you don't mind walking up here. And can you say your name, too?
How's that? Green light. I've heard questions. People are wondering if the...
And I'm
Since-
sorry,
since-
would you mind just identifying?
if anything can be... What?
Would you mind just identifying yourself?
My name's Larry Cloth.
Thank you.
If anything of old business can be brought back up, it's
Correct. No.
a trust issue, and I think more information through the minutes of this meeting will be helpful, just to clarify. No one can go back and try to... Thank you very much.
Yep. Good. I appreciate that. And so here's the clarification. No, we cannot go back and reconsider any of the other articles during that meeting. Okay. Anybody else? All right, so I'm going to make a motion then to go out of this public hearing. Okay, all in favor, aye. And now we're going to move on. First on the agenda, Superintendent John Fortney, give us an end of the school year update.
Been trained to press the button so we can get the green light. Good evening, Select Board. John Fortney, Superintendent of Schools for the Kearsarge Regional School District. We are quickly approaching the end of the school year, and I had promised back in December when I'd come out and visit the first time that I would try to make multiple visits just to stay in contact and keep communication lines open. Last day of school right now is scheduled for June 18th, barring any kind of snow event between now and then, which I'm quickly finding out in the state is not out of the realm of possibility. So we're figuring those parts out. Graduation will be June 14th at the high school at 11 o'clock. If anybody doesn't have anything going on, they would like to see that. That would be amazing to see that production. It's quite an event. Although right now the rain looks like we may be getting, so we'll see what happens. But that's okay, because fat kids float, so I'll be fine. We've got just a couple of things just to highlight some stuff. We've really, this year, it's been kind of an interesting process as we try to open up communication lines and bring more transparency as much as we can to the actions and operations of the school district, because again, this is the community school district, and so we want to make sure people are understanding. I had a great question this winter when I was making the rounds, and that is, what am I getting from my money? Which I think is a great question. What is my tax dollar investing into? And a very valid question. So just to give you a preliminary, we have test scores is always the big thing that they throw at, right? We can argue both sides of the good, the bad, or whatever the case is. But as we look at preliminary results, we're seeing really great returns this year. I've got a school that's up potentially 9 points in English proficiency, which is a great move. I've got schools that are reporting potentially being at the 70% mark for certain areas, and that's a big improvement in math. Math's been a big struggle for us district-wide and something we're going to take a real deep dive. But what's always encouraging is anytime you see an improvement, that's where you want to be. Are we satisfied? Absolutely not. 100% is the goal. Every kid that steps through our doors, we want proficient. That's what we strive to, and I'm not going to be committed to anything until we get to that place. So I think the big elephant in the room, as it's making its rounds on social media, which is always a fun thing, is the facility study. As you might remember, last spring, the school district commissioned LaValle Brensinger, who you're familiar with their work, to do a deep facilities dive into all of our campuses. Part of that was the last payment on the middle school, which is our newest building, which is coming up on 20 years, is going to be paid this next school year. So it's what is next. And as we've looked at different things, 2 weeks ago, the last board meeting, we got another board meeting tomorrow night. 2 weeks ago, LaValle Brensinger did a workshop with the school board. It was the first time the school board had the opportunity to really engage with the architects. Prior to then, it was administrators and it was community stakeholders, and trying to get some of those people in and try to see what is this great, where do we want to head? But quite honestly, it felt very much like a bunch of people playing with the Christmas Sears catalog. There was too many dog-ear marks, so we had to get away from it and kind of see where we're heading. There's some good news and bad news. There are good things within the district, but every building needs something. And so really what the thing of it now is the board's going to have to make a decision really before we get out of June to come up with a couple of options. One is, which is what the expectation of the community would be, is what is the cost going to be to repair everything? Just to repair stuff, not to advance learning things. And when we talk about that, example I had mentioned before, high school, we had we've got a $1 million roof money in a trust for the roofs, repair and replacement. And we were planning on doing a big repair at the high school last summer, and $1 million wasn't going to scratch the surface of what we needed. With the amount of work, because when they had, last time they had done roof work or had done the extension on the high school, they took the old HVAC units off the roof that were aging and set them on the ground, built up, and then grabbed those units and put them back on, and they need replaced. There is a huge leak issue on the roof. We have a big heat loss issue, which is great, but the water has to go someplace. And if we fix the roof leak or the heat issue, now we have to deal with the snow load issue. So for all of that to happen, we literally are going to have to tear off the roof and reconfigure it, including about an 18-inch improvement in the elevation of the roof and a pitch to accommodate the pitch. So what we thought was a great $1 million resurfacing became a $6 to $10 million project. And so right now, as we look at this, a leaky roof is inconvenient. We don't know how long we are. We think we're 3 to 5 years before something may become catastrophic, which is good because as we look at bonding, it usually takes 3 to 5 attempts for the district historically to have passed a bond issue. So we look at things like that. The other part of it, and obviously the big question is well, what is that going to cost? What does it cost to kind of get us back to not to normal, but to fix a lot of the aging structures? And the numbers we're seeing right now, ballparks between $40 and $60 million to make the repair work. Again, that doesn't advance anything within the district. That doesn't make better learning situations. That simply repairs things. Example could be, Seamans is a great example. We know the age of the building. It's 150 plus years old. Our architects have come through, and again, they're not contractors, so when people see the numbers, and if you look at the social media pieces, the slide deck, because we share that out, and I'll make sure that Doreen shares that with the select board here, so you have that as well. Understand that those are ballpark figures, so people see that and then, oh my gosh, well, that's architects, and they always are going to put overage on those kind of things. The issue we look at someplace like Seamans is we don't know what we don't know until we start pulling back dirt. When you have a chance, if you have to, and we're more than happy to facilitate that, to get into the basement of Seamans, there is burnt rafters or floor joists from when the school had a fire a number of years ago. Well, I mean, we buttoned that up, but those things still exist. And we have an old school that's sitting on a rock, that's sitting on ledge, but once we start pulling dirt away, we've got an issue in the basement with leaking. We have an issue with a building that's just the age of it. It's not ADA compliant. If you go, there also is a drainage issue off the front of the building with grade because of runoff. And at times, there's a wet weather creek that runs underneath part of the school from the runoff that comes off of the mountain. It's hard to fix some of those things. We look at things like Sutton. Sutton itself, as you go to Sutton and you say, okay, there's trees and we have all this great stuff, but there's no expansion. The only way to go with Sutton is up, and it's a 3 or 5 to 1 cost ratio, which isn't practical for our taxpayers as we look at those kind of pieces. Bradford has a tremendous amount of land, but there's going to be a lot of dirt work. New London, some of the issues we have with New London, obviously roofing concerns there. The other big concern is a safety security thing, is that our kids have to go outside to get to the gym and to art and to things like that. So is there a way, and that's some of the conversations that the architects have had with the board, is there a way to connect the buildings? And there is, but obviously those things cost money. When we talk about the high school, we talked about the roofing issue there. We've got aging HVAC systems. And so it's just an ongoing piece. And at the middle school is a 20-year-old building, and we built a 20-year-old roof. And now work has to be done on those things. So some of the options that obviously we presented, we talked about the cost to repair. A couple of the other options that the board is looking to consider would be, and we don't want to use the CL word, so we'll call it consolidation as opposed to closing. But if we look at the idea of consolidation, we understand and recognize that our enrollment numbers have been diminishing over the last few years. And as we talk about certain things, understand too that we're also talking about community schools. We're one district, but still these elementary schools have a great place in our community's hearts. But I can take the entire enrollment of Sutton and move it to Seamans and not bring an adult with me. That's just a fact when we look at those numbers based off of enrollment pieces. So we talked about the 4-piece. The board has also been given information on the possibility of a 2 elementary school solution, in which case then it would be the idea that Bradford with its land and then New London would be the north and the south school, in which case then there would be consolidation of Sutton and Seamans to be absorbed within there. What makes that difficult, obviously, is that Sutton becomes the dividing line. And you're also talking about closing 2 schools that have a big place. But when we talk about cost ratio, the one example was we talked about doing repair work on the high school that could be $10 to $14 million, but would cost the district in long-term maintenance up to $38 over 10 years, not to make major adjustments, so just to do kind of that preventative maintenance piece. So everything has a diminishing return as we look at some of that
Can you
stuff.
say that one more time?
We could do $10 to $14 million worth of work on the high school.
Yeah.
But in 10 years, it would cost us $38 million over the 10-year period because of the number of systems that would have to be replaced, because everything is aging. So if you just replace what was broken now, you still have additional money that you're going to have to outlay to fix the other stuff. It's that old, if you know anybody that has a fused spine, as soon as those vertebrae get fused, your doctor worries about the joint above and below, and that's what we'd be facing with that. So it's an ongoing kind of piece. So if we looked at the 2-school option, that would actually be look at cost savings and those kind of pieces. It would be a reduced number of campuses. It would be, we wouldn't need necessarily as many teachers. There would be opportunities for it to cut, but the cost of that is probably somewhere in the $70 to $90 million range. So obviously the things ramp up. The last option that they gave us was the idea of building 1 regional elementary school. So would have 1 elementary school, 1 regional middle school, 1 regional high school. A plus size is no community is spared pain. Everybody shares the load. The downside is now realize too that to do any kind of consolidation or kind of adjustment schools, the affected town has to have a vote to do it. The board cannot do that. That's in the Articles of Agreement, which has worked for us in a lot of ways, but we have a lot of convincing, and we know that that's tough sledding to make those kind of things happen. And so which is why we have to come up with options for the board, which is what we're working with, because time is running against us. The last board bond payment will be just under $2 million will be this next school year. And so the plan was when they started this study, was to have a bond vote March of 26. Because we remember it has said historically it's taken 3 to 5 attempts to get this passed. And the longer it takes, number one, any contractor right now that we've had conversation with won't give the district a guarantee on pricing more than 15 days because of tariffs and supply chains and things like that. And what architects are telling us is for every year that we have to wait, things could go up potentially 10% or more on costs because of different things. And as that certain things fail, then other things go across. So if you were to ask me right now, my job isn't necessarily to provide a recommendation. I provide the board options and that they take a look at it. But I think the goal of this, getting through this year, as the board is well aware, is to provide the community two possibilities. And then from there, then we would take then the remainder of the summer and the beginning of the fall to try to shop that around and communicate that out to see where the community is willing to support. Because it's not a question of if we can repair things. There are things that are going to be catastrophic. And we are going to have to do these things. And again, it's easy to say, well, why didn't we take care of our facilities? That's not been the case. Anybody that knows, sometimes your boiler goes out, or your hot water heater, or your furnace, or whatever the case is. Things just wear out. For a hot water heater, you can go to Home Depot and get one for a few $100. For us to replace a boiler at a school, it's $500,000. And so things add up. It's like working for the government, but we're not buying $300 screwdrivers. So, like I said, we'll present that. The board has a board meeting. Next board meeting is tomorrow night. We anticipate providing some more information and hoping the board making an informed decision on what kind of options they want to take a look at which will be the June 19th. So there's two board meetings and a workshop or retreat left. And then the board doesn't convene again until August. And so obviously we have to get information in play as Mr. Anderson knows that the NBC's got to take a big pivotal part of this whole piece as well as these conversations, and so it's going to be a tough sledding. Welcome to New Hampshire, right? So
You timed that right.
I wouldn't trade it.
Well, you're preaching to the choir. We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I was going to ask the question about consolidation, and I appreciate the fact that you're trying to think outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions, Rich? I'll start with you.
John, the overall number, when we're talking about if we were to do all the repairs that were suggested in the report, what was the number again?
They ballparked us at 40 to 60, but that's the known repairs. So if we were to repair, like the Seamans was, I think the slide deck has more information, it provides some more information on that. But if we looked at base needs, I think it was ballpark $40 to $60 million, depending on what we were going to take on through the bond and what things we would try to lease purchase and what things would we look to Brett to try to see what could Brett take on through his budget.
And tell me, in terms of, when we talk about, for example, a possibility of consolidating to a single elementary school, would it be located at one of the existing elementary schools where that school would be dramatically expanded, or would it be an entirely new site?
If the board was to vote for that, right now, we figured there's land at the middle school to place that, so it would be a new building. And that building itself is about $90 million. So there would be, basically the district would have to decide what it was going to do with the other 4 campuses. There wasn't any discussion about trying to renovate one of the existing elementary buildings into being the regional school. The conversation, when they looked at the amount of land and the idea of consolidating that many in, is my understanding was that when the land was bought, that there was consideration for building another school if that ever came to the place. So that would make the most sense. Now then you would have all 3 campuses basically centrally located within the regional district. But the cost for that is, the upside of that is, other than obviously the financial thing, which you want to put that aside, but now you have a up-to-date, state-of-the-art, brand-new campus. And from there, what they had talked about doing was, rather than, because people hear one school and they hear mega school and they freak out, is the ability of having one regional elementary school, but having basically 2 schools inside, having a K2 wing, so a K2 school, and then a 3-5 school, so you break those parts down a little bit further. It really is, and I think that's as we look at it, the biggest thing is trying to make sure that we're being, obviously transparency, not to say that we haven't been before, that's always been the case, but it's really getting people to understand, because Do we maximize the access to the bond so the community says, okay, we're going to bond this, but then we present plans that we work it in stages to try to minimize the impact? And the reason I say that is just to give you a math number, because people will want to go, well, how much is that going to mean for me and my taxes? The district presented a 2.95% budget increase this last budgeting cycle, and that was just over $1 million. A $100 million bond is roughly an $8 million payment. So you're talking about a 20% increase or more potentially in taxes. And that's not counting what you bill or
Right.
anybody else.
What's the amount of the bond if you're just replacing the existing $2 million payment that we're still paying on the middle school? So if
It's about $25 million to
25
keep that
million
going.
to keep
So,
that the same.
That'd be about, because I think the building, it's crazy how buildings go up, but you could also get a house in New Hampshire for $100,000 20 years ago. And now that doesn't even get you a lot.
I'm sorry, John, you lost me. What was that, 25 million?
About 25 to $30 million if we were to maintain the debt service, like that, roughly that same debt service. But I want to remind you too, that understand it's a little bit of a misnomer because this last payment, it's about 1.9 million. And that's the lowest of all the payments because it's at the end of its life cycle. Because that's all principal at this point.
And
So-
John, the duration of the bond would be what?
Well, we can do 20 or 30 years, depending. But the problem we run into is that if you do a 30-year bond, then you're locked in, unless you have another catastrophic thing that you convince people to do. I mean, that's your role. Larry LaBeouf, we've got one of the best business administrators in the state, so he's crunched all the numbers. If you guys would like to know what those payments will be on estimates, just reach out to my office and be more than happy to share any of that information with you. Because right now, if we can maintain the payment, that's why if the best scenario is we maintain it, then then really we're not adding $8 million to debt service, we're adding $6 million if we can maintain that payment. Now, it still is an increase. I mean, that's still if you look at it for every $1 million is 3% roughly. Now, you're talking 18% on that. But that doesn't necessarily mean all of the work would happen at one time because it would have to be slated out. It would be capacity building as we go from there, so.
John, as you know, we'd considered a few years ago the possibility of a major renovation to the high school. When we talk about that number of $40 to $60 million, would that include the significant renovations that we had talked?
STEM wing wouldn't have anything to do with that. That would be a completely separate project. That $40 to $60 million is just HVAC work, roofing repairs and replacements. I mean, just the generalized type of thing, not even, again, the STEAM wing project was a great project, but it was almost a blessing as you look at it, because had that happened, we still have all these other issues that come with it. So all that is just literally just doing mandated needed repair. The other example would be, right now, we're on borrowed time at the Seamans School District because the fire marshal has given us some time to work on a sprinkler system. That's $500,000 to $1.25 million for that system.
But I thought, John, we've already done a portion of that already.
We've done some of that work, but there's still a lot more to be done because the problem we run into is that we need to add a pump house for the sprinkler system. There's also a lot of that work. We have asbestos that's encapsulated in the roof between the drop ceiling and the original roof that's going to have some abatement, which we know that the costs on those things are crazy. So those are the numbers we're looking is about $500,000 to 1.25 to put a fully finished putting in that sprinkler system. The other thing is that building's not ADA compliant because it doesn't have an elevator to get to the second floor. There's no way to retrofit that. So we have to make classroom adjustments. Right now we're lucky we don't have any kids that have ambulatory issues that they can't get upstairs. But if we had a problem with that, then those teachers are going to have to flip down to the lower levels, and then we have classroom adjustments from those pieces.
And does that also include HVAC work on the middle school? Which
Does not. That's another cost. And that's where things they get big and scary quick.
Yep.
John, could you ask Doreen to forward to the three of us all the information you have?
Sure.
That would be
Be
great.
more than happy to.
Everything in terms of, the different number scenarios and what it
Yeah.
would include, what it wouldn't, et cetera.
Yep.
So-
The big slide deck that we got, the Lynn Valley gave to the board last week is what I was talking earlier about sharing with you. And then I can include those numbers as well. So, obviously it's a public document, so we're going to be open with that. I just wanted to make sure that our board had those conversations because they're the ones that are going to have to make the decision. Because at one point, La Valley was like, well, John is going to decide. It's like, John will not. until I buy all the tar and feathers in a 3-county area. So, you know, this is a big decision, and it really, we want to make sure that we're very transparent and clear on what it's going to do. Because the problem we run into is there will be a cost savings. If the 4-school thing doesn't create a cost savings, but if there's any consolidation that happens, there will be. But let's be honest, it gets worse before it gets better, because we actually have to have the schools built, and we have to have the consolidation happening before we see any kind of savings. So we could be looking at a couple year pain. So we just want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
And John, did you say that potentially we could consolidate moving Sutton over to Seamans, and you would not need to bring any of the staff or?
No.
I mean, I guess I'm just confused as to, you know, when I think about the class sizes at Seamans, we don't have that kind of, you know.
Seamans has I think it's two teachers in every building, or in every grade level. And you've got, like an example would be, you've got kindergarten classes that are very small. I think they're 8 or 9. But if you combine it into one, it breaks the threshold of 15, which is what the district had set to need a second teacher. So you've got those spacing, and Sutton itself is about 80 kids. I think Seamans, I have to look, I want to say Seamans right now is about 140, 160 kids, somewhere in that ballpark, but they've been well in the 200s in the past.
Have you done your presentation to Sutton yet?
No, I'm getting private security before I head out that way.
I think that's
Yeah.
a really good idea.
Well, and the thing of it too is the piece of having these conversations is making sure that we're very clear that this is not what, I didn't get brought in to kill schools. That wasn't the whole piece. But again, if we talk as we get into this land of fiscal responsibility, we have to have these tough conversations, and that's why I did get brought in.
I assume you're having these tough conversations with our state reps.
As much as they're
whatever
willing
that's
to
worth.
listen.
Oh, they'll listen, but it's,
Well,
some of
they
them.
listen until they start
couple.
talking to me, and then when they stop, then they stop listening. And then
Yeah.
the New York guy in me starts coming out. Remember, I'm a Midwest transplant. I wasn't born there. I was born in New York, so that holds true. Just ask my wife. So,
yeah,
all righty.
I think I think that's all.
Thanks so much, John.
I appreciate it.
John.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Come back as often as you want.
Yeah, as much as you guys want to invite.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Would anybody here like to ask any questions? Yeah.
Seven campuses. So we've got four elementary schools, middle school, high school, and then the SAU is considered separate.
And if you were to prioritize the roof issue, where would New London be?
Fourth, third, or fourth. High school's number one. There's no escaping that.
Okay. Is there any money in a facilities fund?
Yeah, it's about $1 million. That's in the trust. We've got a couple of trusts for capital projects. Might be closer to $2 million, but not enough to deal with what we're talking about.
Right. If you build this new elementary school somewhere, is there busing issues that have been thought about?
No, we talked about the busing and all that. The biggest busing issue is going to be if we go to a 2-school campus. The problem is going to be where's the dividing line? Because if you do 2 schools, you're going to have to put a dividing line somewhere to the town side. And so that could be a problematic piece, but right now there's no. The busing company did not indicate that there would be any issues.
Okay. In the event that these roofs start leaking, what is the disaster plan for?
Well, we put a bucket under it until it falls in like the elementary school that happened not too long ago here in New Hampshire. Right now, like I said, we've done a roof study. They're inconvenient. The leaking roof is inconvenient, but it's not catastrophic. We're not there yet.
So you can keep
Oh, yeah.
the students.
Yeah, we're replacing a roof is not sexy unless you're standing in the roof and you drip down. So, it's gonna be, it's manageable in the current status for the next couple of years if we have to.
And then not really related to this, what's the iPhone policy for students with their iPhone with them?
The high school has got, they have little lock boxes that they encourage the kids to use. They're allowed to have them in passing period and during downtime at lunch, but in classrooms, they're supposed to be put away and locked. They've got kind of a, you know, like a lock, where, like, you know, that kind of piece.
And that's true for all students?
It is true for the high school for sure. I believe the middle school, elementary school doesn't, we haven't had any reports of problems with cell phone use. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But the issue right now, we're getting smart. We gotta get teachers checking because what's happening is they're making these iPhone cases, and that's what the kids are putting in the locker. Not the phone. Not the phone. So when you put it face down, it looks like you have a phone there.
Oh,
If you see it in your
they're
yard,
very smart.
well,
The-
they're the best tax accountants. They can find a little, see what you can
Oh
find.
my God, they all have VPNs, they all have VPN connections down at the high school so they can get on, you know, all the social media, all the things that are, yeah, they're smart.
LA School District did iPad minis to the entire school district, and it took them like, it was like $10 or $15 million, it took them back within a week, because all the middle schools had gotten through firewalls and security protections.
Yeah.
They said they'll have no fury like a middle school kid is trying to get on Roblox. So, thank you guys very much, appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Okay. All right, next on the agenda, public comments for anything that is not on the agenda tonight.
Rich Epstein, town resident. Just a curiosity question about town meetings. So am I correct to assume, given this happened at the last town meeting, a resident doesn't necessarily have to go to town meeting, they could just send in to somebody, one of the leadership, what they want stated, and then the town moderator will then speak it? Is that an allowed, that would happen, so is that an allowed process?
The moderator, I do believe, allowed comments from the Garveys. I think you read it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's possible if the moderator allows it. Just
Okay,
like
so-
at meetings, non-residents shouldn't be allowed to speak, and the town meeting could vote not to allow them to speak if they wanted.
Okay, but I mean, he should at least allow the people who attend to decide whether or not this resident.
He could, or he could make his own decision, and the meeting could overrule him. Any decision he makes could be overruled, with some few exceptions. But
But-
generally, moderators will conduct the meeting and go through the process of the meeting. If at any time a voter wants to challenge the moderator or ask for a vote to overrule the moderator, they could.
But I mean, how would anybody know that an email was sent? You know, I mean, is it, I would think, given what transpired, it should at least for anybody else who wants to send in an email for their statement, theirs should at least be, the moderator should at least make it known that this email was sent, and people, you know, it should be then maybe voted on. But I think it should be exposed that somebody sent in an email for a statement. Somehow.
So you think that the moderator should have handled it differently? You could certainly bring that up to next town meeting. I think, as I recall in this case, the select board chair wanted to ask the moderator to read comments by somebody who was involved in one of the articles, Article 3. So
Right,
this
but
was
they
a
didn't
person-
attend.
What, excuse
They
me?
were residents who didn't attend.
Correct. They were the owners of the
Right.
property that was being discussed.
Right.
I suppose if the moderator had said no, the chair could have asked the meeting members present to overrule him.
Okay.
That could have happened. Or if, when the moderator said that he was going to allow the reading of it, somebody could have said, I don't think so, I move to overrule the moderator. So moderator can be overruled.
Okay, okay. But I would think at least should get exposed if somebody else sent in an email. It should be known, and however, the decision should be an open discussion on whether or not that statement.
I
could
suppose
be
if
read.
somebody at the meeting had an email in their hand that they wanted to read aloud on behalf of somebody, they could have done the same thing that the chair did, which was ask the moderator if he or she could read it.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Again, Larry Cloth. I was going to ask some of those questions. It's $12.5 million we sent to the school, and they're going to ask a lot more money, aren't they? Our budget sent $12.5 million to the school, right?
Yes.
You guys have got a decision in front of you. Quick question.
Actually, it's for the voters, the decision.
Well, yes, but the decision's going to come through you all. That, I'm not trying to take a shot at anything. I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
crunch time's coming down. I see a lot of committees in this, and I've just moved back to New London. A lot of committees like on energy and whatever. Is there a committee to try to get new business into town? I see the government going through a lot of AI business, which is not industry. I see Ohio getting billions of dollars. Are we going to someone, is it down in Concord, to go out and try to get this kind of business? Because you're going to run out of tax dollars. I mean, my first time here, my first meeting I was at, I sat next to a woman who told me that she had to sell the family house in 3 generations because the taxes were too high. I went to New London High School. I went to Kearsarge Regional, the first class. I mean, we didn't have these problems. So somewhere we have to get business. You can't just put it on the taxpayers for taxes. That's not how America works, not how the rest of the world is working. So I would just ask in this group, and maybe this is the wrong group for me to speak to, and I apologize if it is, but maybe we need a committee on business development from outside our local thought process. Because there's no time that I can see coming up. We've had this kind, we're not building steel plants, we're not doing that. I understand the agenda, but that would be my quest to you all, is maybe you need some kind of a business agenda where we can, in our parameters of what we're trying to do, 25% into lands that can't be taxed. You got a lot coming down on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to old business, the status of the Garvey Trust purchase and sale agreement.
So, getting back to town meeting, as we all know, the March 12th and May 14th meetings did not approve the purchase of the Garvey property, so the selectmen have no authority to purchase it, they have no money to purchase it, so the town cannot purchase the property. So I would recommend that you make a motion to formally terminate the purchase and sale agreement at this time, because it's really not in effect. So to make it official, I would terminate it.
Okay, can I have a motion to terminate the purchase and sale agreement? So moved. Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, and next, the town's participation in the Poverty Plains Solar Project in Warner.
So we did send the agreement, member agreement, to town council, who has no real hesitation or objection to the agreement as far as the town goes. He did point out a few things that we should have cleared up, and one area that you might want to try to negotiate, and that's in the area of the termination of the agreement. As you know, you can terminate the agreement with a year's notice at no penalty, or under a year, you would be paying a price per kilowatt hour. The host, the people who own the solar system, can terminate the agreement within 90 days at no penalty. So town council said that may be something that you want to look at, have the same ability to withdraw without penalty. So I would recommend, if you do believe that entering into the agreement is worthwhile for the town, as the Energy Committee has recommended, we go back to them with the comments from town council and see if there is any way to negotiate a bit so that it would be more favorable for the town. And obviously, we also have to look at the appendices to make sure that the list of our accounts are correct. And I think that was discussed at the last meeting, to make sure the fire department and any other buildings that you're thinking of adding solar to are accounted for.
Okay. All right. Did you have any comments on this, Janet? No. Rich? So we're just, is that what you want
So-
us to do? Direct you to have the
Yep.
attorney, okay, go back to them with those questions?
Yep.
I would agree with that.
Good.
And because they want us to sign this by the middle of,
They're looking mid-June, yeah.
okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on this arrangement? Okay. All righty. All right, next, new business. Discuss establishment of the SB2 study committee. So, the reason this is coming around is because I was approached by multiple people after the first town meeting suggesting, asking questions and saying, has the town ever considered changing over to being an SB2 type of town? And reasons being, some people have a tough time getting to town meeting. I know my father wouldn't have been able to sit there for that long, let alone get him in there and down the hallway. And it's been brought up before. A couple of years ago, John Cannon arranged to have Sue Gottling come over and speak to the Citizens Committee. Sue is the chair of the Sunapee Select Board, and they made the change to SB2 about 5 years ago, I think it's been, maybe not that long.
Oh, I think it's been longer than that.
Longer than that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. As we know, the school district is SB2, and as a school board member, we were often disappointed at the lack of attendance at the deliberative session until this year. And another issue with SB2 for Sunapee this year is that their budget was not passed, and so they're running on a default budget right now. But having said all of that, I think it's still worth having a small committee to review it. I've sent you both the memo that Colin sent, and I'm going to ask Colin to come up and speak to the memo. Colin has volunteered to run this study committee, and I think it's a great idea. Again, it's not an endorsement by any of us on the select board to do this. It's just an opportunity to look into it and get recommendations.
Hi, Colin Beasley. Nor is it an endorsement on my part, but I do think it's important that we get all the facts on the table. So, can this be published on the website so people can see it? Is it worthwhile? Obviously, these are my ideas, and whatever study group gets put together should look at these and add to it, subtract to it. But I think it starts from the very beginning. We need to define what SB1 and SB2 is in English, so that when we're done with the study and we start talking to people about the alternatives, we can put it in language that they understand rather than what is SB1 and SB2. I think we can provide some facts on the community's current engagement, so why do we want this, and there are different ideas around that. I think we need to identify what's common, what's different between the two forms of government. What is a deliberative session versus a town meeting? Get that in English so people can appreciate that. How does the SB2 budget process work? Get into those sort of things. I think we should research a sample of New Hampshire towns to see what lessons learned that they have. And equally important, what was the voter experience? And are they happy with it? How many towns who went to SB2 wanted to go back? And could they go back? And did they go back? Was it successful or not? So getting some historical information I think would be valuable for the conversation. And then we should document the implementation steps, including what's the cost? What are the costs that we need to incur? Identify any other governance changes that we might want to consider. Should we go ahead with the form of governance change? What else needs to change? So I think we need to take a look at how does the budget committee work in that environment? And how does the select board work in that environment? So I think we can lay all that out. And then finally, provide some commentary on what the so what. And there, I think all the other things I'm hoping are facts, just facts that we can portray to the people in English about what does it mean to be a government like this versus like that. And then given all those facts, the study group can say, so what's our view of it, right? What do we think about it? And we can give you our subjective view. The timing of this, I've read a couple of things, and I obviously I think that NHMA could probably be helpful to us. A lot of this stuff, I'm sure, is at the fingertips of many people at NHMA. But I think that it would be important for us to really appreciate what it's going to take. I've read that it definitely needs to be voted on by the town, and I've read that it could be done at the polls, and I've read that it has to be done at the town meeting. I don't know which is which. So the timing of this, if you wanted to get it done, we'd have to sort of back up from the March meeting and back that out to say, there's going to have to be a lot of communications, right? And I think that there's going to have to be communications in general. People are concerned about, how are you going to educate people to go to the polls, and what does that look like when you go to the polls? How many pages is that?
Yeah.
When you think about the article, so we got to go through all that and machinate that information, and then hand that over to the three of you and have that conversation and see where we go from there.
Okay, and thought a little bit about the size of the committee, and I talked to Colin about it, and we think this can be quite small. I've spoken to Laura Davis, who spoke to me that night of town meeting about her desire to see this be SB2, and Debbie Stanley was a name given to me as somebody who would like to stay with our town meeting format. So I've given those names to Colin, and you feel comfortable with just that small number?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I think a lot of this information is just factual that I'm hoping that we can get NHMA and they could probably help a lot. I think that the work will be selecting what number of towns we go talk to, offline, what's been your success, how do you feel about it? They could sort of put that anecdotal evidence out there on how people went through it. And then I suspect it's statutorily defined on the transition. What does the town have to do to go from one to the other? So I think once we figure all that out, it's just playing that whole game out. So I think 3 people can go through it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Do you have any comments?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long do you think like, maybe
I mean, I can.
2 months or something?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I really don't. It depends how much we can leverage on the NHMA, and I don't know what the schedule is for the
Yeah.
2 folks you talked about.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's June, all right? So,
Yep.
I mean, we could literally take 6 months to get to it, and you're gonna have everything by November, December, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know whether we meet once a week, and I can meet every day if they want to. Every
I know,
day's a Sunday.
Every day's a Sunday, yeah. Okay,
But I know that people don't, so,
Yeah.
we'll drag it out over some period of time, and I'll talk to them about that.
all right.
Yeah, okay?
Do you have any questions, comments? I don't, thank you. Okay,
Good?
Janet?
Okay, you're welcome.
all right. Thank you, Colin, appreciate it. And I've got a couple things I'll give it to you after. All right. Okay, next, the Town of Warner Select Board letter regarding poor cell coverage. I think we saw this at our last meeting, and we thought we'd take a look at it and then talk about it at the next meeting. I'm not sure we have a ton of issues with cell phone coverage in New London, but
At the end of the meeting, I did talk to the Raycows who live on Bunker, and they say that they have challenges with cell phone service. In talking about this letter with Adam Ricker, the town planner, he reminded me that Wilmot will soon be having a cell tower installed there, which will likely help the Bunker Road area of this town. So I'm not sure if anyone else has experienced cell phone connectivity
and Shore.
issues. I know Slope and Shore does.
I was gonna
Oh,
say.
yeah. Yep. But Adam did bring up your area as one of the areas that's very challenged by cell service. So New London's problem may soon be resolved, but it may be that you want to meet with these folks just as collaboration with your fellow selectmen. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, so they would like to schedule a meeting with nearby towns. Oh, yeah, sure, why not?
So you're interested, maybe one of you could go, or several?
Yeah.
Truthfully, I agree with you. I don't see it as a problem.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we can send our sympathies. But I don't feel like, especially if we're talking about a new potential tower to solve problems at Slope and Shore and Bunker, it just doesn't seem to me like it's a major issue for us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because the
all due
Wilmot
respect.
Tower should help Slope and Shore too, shouldn't it?
That's what Adam thinks.
Okay.
Good evening, Peter Nichols. It's not just a matter of convenience. It can be safety as well.
Yeah,
Even within our house, we have to use the Wi-Fi for a cell connection, and even within the house, it keeps dropping. So it can be a safety issue. We have a landline, but the landline goes through Comcast. So when that goes, then it goes. I would add that it may be a bigger problem someday if Verizon were to come to you and say, we'd like to put a tower in this location. And then the planning board and perhaps the select board has to decide, is that what we want? So my recommendation is to think a little bit ahead. If we needed one, where would it go? And is this just a problem for a few people, and therefore it's not a select board issue? But keep in mind that if you think ahead as to where towers might go, it could also be better thinking for communications in general, including the police station.
okay. I do not mind going to a meeting like this if you want to reach out to them, it's fine with me.
Sure.
Yep.
And Peter, I would just say, certainly, no, please. I would just say that, if I hadn't just heard what I heard, that Wilmot is working on a new tower, that's where, my hope is that we might, whatever problems we have might be solved by that. But did Adam seem to be confident in that information, that Wilmot's working on a new tower?
Oh, yeah, he said it's been approved. I mean, we're talking about construction now.
It's fine.
Okay, so you'll
I don't mind learning
join
all
in the
about
meeting?
cell phone towers. Yeah.
Yep, great.
Okay. All right. Okay, and proposal to restore the town clock on the Baptist church steeple.
So the picture up there looks a little dark, but I took that maybe yesterday, the day before. The Baptist church is having work done on their steeple. As many of you know, the town of New London owns the clock in that steeple, and we're responsible for maintaining it. And over the years, the town has done a good job at maintaining it, taking the numbers down and the hands down. And so what we're talking about now is having the numbers and hands on the clock. I'm not talking about the mechanism, just the face of the clock restored. There's one side, the parking lot side, he tells me is worse than the other two. So the question before you is, do you want to do one side at $8,400 or all three sides for $22,300? The benefit of doing it now, it's a little cheaper since they're already doing work at the Baptist church. This issue came up several months ago or when working on budgets, and the thought then was to either find it in the operating budget the funds needed, but we didn't know how much it would be then, or fundraise for it. But the issue tonight for you is to decide if you will spend the money to restore one side or all sides. And I will say I did talk to Lynn. We could find the funds, and we're in June, and the budget year is almost over. This is a really extremely tight budget, tighter than it's been since I've been here, but we could find the $22,300 needed if you want to do all three while they're here.
Janet, do you want to talk, for those that may not know, about why we're responsible for the clock base, the history of the...
Hang on just one second on my notes.
Sorry, I should have prepped you.
No. I just want to read something that Jessie Levine wrote in 2006 with regard to the town clock. She said, "The presence of a town-owned clock in the tower of a privately owned structure is not unique to New London, but is commonplace throughout New England. To my knowledge, New London's clock is the only subject owned by the town of New London that is permanently housed on private property." She further noted that the town has accepted financial responsibility for any maintenance, repair, or replacement of clock components and will continue to own that responsibility. The church is, and we assume will continue to be, responsible for the maintenance and repair of the structure housing the deck, as well as access ways leading to the clock. So it is our responsibility to maintain this clock, and it is, I think it's a beautiful clock. It's something that is iconic, and we should take care of it. So, but I'm only in favor of fixing one side at this time.
Can I ask, do we have any close-up photographs showing what the condition is of the face that we could look at?
No, I think you could probably go over there and look at it.
Yeah, and I can send you some
We could
pictures.
take a 5-minute
of-
break so I could just
Right,
run
yeah.
over and...
Yeah,
Check it out, yeah.
I could send you some pictures of the numerals. I mean, they're worn. It's been, I don't know how many, I don't think we've repaired it since I've been here, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think,
Regular maintenance. And I had someone telling me that you're going to be really embarrassed after they do all the work on that thing and the clock looks terrible. I would agree with Janet and just go with one side. I don't think we should spend $22,000 at the moment when we've got lots of other things coming
Has
along.
anyone seen the face that's in question in terms of, does it look bad?
We knew about it a while ago.
Yeah.
I mean, several years ago, we talked about this, that it was coming up, and indicated to the Baptist church that when the time came and they gave us an estimate, we would step up. Now, the way I look at it is if we do all three sides, that only comes up to about $24,000 to $25,000, so that's not that much more than $8,000 now. That's the way I look at it, so maybe
In
that's...
terms of potential savings.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a huge savings
Right,
in not doing
right.
all three, so I think we have to look at the budget and realize that we just don't have a lot of extra income to do things.
Do you mind if I just throw it out there to folks out there? Does anyone know how the face looks?
Marilyn Soper. I am a member of the Baptist Church, and I'm a member of the Bicentennial Planning Committee. So I have not gone up in the lift and seen the clock face. My understanding is the last time it was repaired, Peter Stanley did it. And I can go back to the archives and find the newspaper article. But it's been at least 25 years, and it's out in all kinds of weather. And it does need work on it. I'm not sure we could get you that picture, but we can try. Or we can offer you a chance to come up and climb the steeple.
I may take you up on that.
Yeah, but it has been a subject of conversation for a number of years. I can't remember how far back it started, but yeah, then Deb Perkins gave me a copy of the article that featured Peter Stanley doing all the repairs. So
I think Peter at that time showed pictures. He had taken pictures on the interior of the tower, and it was a little startling to see what bad shape it was in.
yeah.
So
yeah.
I think the church is fixing the interior part.
Yes, and
Right.
that's what the lift and all of the work that you're hearing go on. You know, and the church is in process of restoring windows and getting ready for the bicentennial of the meeting house, which will celebrate 200 years of existing on Colby Hill in 2026. So it's a good time to be doing all of those things. But if you need more information, let me know, and I'll see what I can find for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Colin, how does it look from your vantage point?
I also wonder if Bruce Parsons might have some context as well, because he and my grandfather were the two that did the clock originally, and I know that he has been involved a bit. Marion, I don't know if Bruce has been involved in any way. Okay. I might reach out to him and just see if I can get some historical knowledge on that, especially around fundraising, because I have a faint memory of there being a fundraiser a very long time ago. But I'll reach out to him and see if I can get any additional information.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what you'd find is that citizens would donate to restore this. I think when the clock was put in, it was in 1884. And so it's been a fixture here in town
Yeah.
for that long.
Yep.
And I do think people will respond to that.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'll reach out and just get some historical context for when he and my grandfather restored it back in the 80s or early 90s.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of your grandfather's books, too, on the town clocks
Oh, great.
that your mom had given to the church.
Perfect.
So, there may be something in there
Yeah.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, okay. A little bit more exploration.
Yeah, you can vote tonight. You can fundraise at some time in the future, but if you want this done with the scaffolding and lift, you need to do it tonight.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to,
So do you want to do one side for 84, or do you want to do all three for 22-3?
well, if we decide we want to do some fundraising, if we voted tonight on the one side and then talked more about fundraising for the other two sides, Or would you say vote on the whole thing and then do the fundraising?
You could certainly do the other two sides later. However, you will pay more because
Right,
the
'cause we
the
wanna-
lift will not be there, right, so.
Right,
You
so
could do that in the future, next year or some other year.
Yeah.
With fundraising, but
Oh.
you will have a higher price,
Yeah,
given that they'll have to mobilize again.
okay. One side? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve $8,400 to cover the cost for improving one side of the clock.
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, town administrator report.
Did you want to consider the Conservation Commission alternate, appointment of an alternate member, Don Ostler?
Yeah. Sure. Been involved with that.
Yep.
Okay, so. I
So
need a
did
motion.
Janet move?
I moved that, yeah.
All in favor of
Aye.
approving Don Osler to be a new member on the Conservation Committee? Aye, okay. There we go,
Okay,
that done.
ready?
This out. Yep, town administrator report.
Okay, so welcome to Ashley, who's going to be my replacement as town administrator. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Update on the police department at the highway department. We have had one additional meeting with Eversource, and by we, I mean myself, the chief, and Adam and Sam had a Zoom meeting on May 28th to further discuss the easements and the area and what our needs would potentially be. There'll be another meeting on Monday to continue that discussion. On May 29th, Beltronics was on site. They viewed the area, and they'll be taking they took some measurements as far as frequency and distance to Kearsarge and all the rest of it. So they will be looking into it and more, and we'll be able to come back. And you may want to decide whether you want to have a presentation of some sort or whatever, once we get that information. Once you find out whether communications will be possible, then we can look into more about whether the building would fit on the property. But I think at this point, communications is kind of the key thing, so we really need to get that nailed down. So both Eversource and Beltronics are working with us on that topic. Sam got information on asbestos removal from the garage that has been vacated. His initial estimate was more than $20,000 or more. He had somebody come and look at it, and because of the amount of asbestos that is there, the price will only be $4,615. So you'll be having before you in the future whether you want to deal with that issue now, and so that it's done before you make the decisions on what building you're going to do, or, because as you might recall, Sam suggested that we wait and do the asbestos removal and removal of the building as part of the construction project. Where the amount is so low, you may want to deal with that issue. You could deal with that issue in the upcoming budget, as opposed to waiting until 2027. So that's just a thought. So that's good news on that.
Would, in terms of that asbestos removal for what apparently is a modest amount, would we still have to shore up the building in order to do?
To do it. No, he's not concerned about the safety of the building, of his people in there to do it. I guess the surprise was the amount. It was thought that there was much more asbestos there than than is really there. So we can have Sam come in and discuss it further, the various options.
Okay.
Public Works did line painting last night. I think they worked until midnight. I think this is the first time, at least since I've been here, that they did night painting, and they said it worked really well, that the cars that went by were really happy that they were doing it at night and not, gumming up the works during the day. And Sam said as it got later, there could be 15 and 20 minutes where no cars came at all. So they were thrilled. They'll be doing it tonight, so everybody stay home if you can, give them a break, and finishing up, because we still have crosswalks and such to do. So I was really happy. I think that's a great way to do it, both for staff and for people on Main Street and around. So that worked out very well. And to Larry's point earlier about economic development, when I started here in 2011, there was an economic development committee, and it was nearing the end of its run. I think they found the members on it weren't very successful. And I think there were a variety of reasons why they weren't. That was 2011. Times are different now. I think that having such a committee could be worthwhile. I think they found there was some resistance to more commercial, because many times people don't want more commercial. And as you pointed out, you're not talking factories or anything, just some, low-impact commercial uses. So, I mean, I think it would be valuable or, a thought to try and get people interested in it. But it was tried back then. And I'm not even sure how long the committee was going on. And maybe you don't remember, Janet. I think Gary Markoff was on it.
They were disappointed at
They were.
the amount of work that went into it, and were not able to get the public behind them,
Yeah.
basically.
I guess there was no enthusiasm from the public, is the best
Right.
way to say.
I actually think what you're talking about too is we need more revenue sources, right? And so this is part of the largest conversation that we've been having also about a strategic financial plan, right? I think that's part of the same conversation, which we have not forgotten about, which I think about probably every day. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, and again, the state's got to do the same thing. I keep putting it back there. The state has to do the same thing. Yep.
Why do you think West Virginia has a great cell phone system? Robert Byrd was a great senator.
Yep. Yep.
We have some things here. Jim Cleveland was here.
Yep. Agreed. So, thanks, Kim. Committee meetings and reports.
We went to the Sunapee Water and Sewer Commission meeting last Thursday, and they went over a few things. They said that the system's working very well. They're still getting more information on solar and determining whether or not it would be worthwhile to install it at the wastewater treatment facility. And they're going to get more information on the camera, which Sam has said that he would be interested in having one as well, because if they could take pictures of what's going on in the pipes, that would be really helpful. And since these renting one of these cameras is like $10,000 a day, it would probably be beneficial to do that.
But the last meeting you went to, didn't they say one of those cameras costs like $100,000?
Right, but if you're renting it at $10,000 a day,
Yep.
and you need it, you're going to get the cost down pretty quickly. And they would be, we would be splitting it with Sunapee. So I don't think there was anything else significant.
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
No.
It was Rich's first meeting, so.
Yes. It was also my wife's first, and I'm quite certain her last.
I thought she liked that stuff.
Kudos to her for, she wanted to at least visit once, and I think she got that.
Okay, well, Janet and I attended the meeting over at Ashley at Mount Sunapee yesterday, where they presented their operation. Were you able to get there?
I was down in court.
Okay, well, 200 people showed up. Colin was there, sitting in the back row, and it was really a great turnout. I felt very good about that. The DES did their presentation on everything is just fine with the septic lagoons, and then the Newbury Conservation Commission got up and did their presentation, basically overriding everything that the DES scientists had said. The DES commissioner was there and said in no uncertain terms that they're safe, and said they're recommending that Mount Sunapee do a feasibility study starting in 2026 to end in 2030. So the crowd there was pretty much very upset and very, got up. Kristen Schultz got up, I got up, Karen Ebel, Greg Sargent. Not that many people, because we were all saying the same thing. Dan Wolf made an excellent recommendation to the advisory committee that they put together a small little committee to work on a plan and have it be done, a new system by December 2026. So I think the way the process works now is that the advisory committee has so many days to approve the operational plan that Mount Sunapee presented, and they can add things to it, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm hoping that they add to it the recommendation that Dan Wolf made. And Karen Ebel quite strongly said to Vail, if I were you, I wouldn't wait for the state. So we'll see what Vail comes up with. But it was a great attendance. It was really great to see, similar to the deliberative session kind of thing. But, you know, so we'll see what happens. I thank everybody who attended.
And DES was actually claiming that there's no issue.
Correct. And then the Newbury Conservation Commission presented all this evidence of how long DES has known about the problem and admitted the problem.
And after that presentation, did DES try to counter or
No.
rebut any of the arguments?
Not really. They looked very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was a Department of Environmental Services, yeah, that issues the ground permits for this system with all these recommendations for things to do about it that nobody's doing, and they're not enforcing. It's just a messed up thing.
And did anyone from Vail speak?
Yep, Sue spoke, the manager of Vail, and she just said, we are doing what DES is telling us to do, which is just the basic maintenance.
Is that meeting online? Can we view it?
YCN was there and recorded the whole thing. I don't think they've posted it yet, but. You do? I do. Okay. It was, I said to Karen Leott Hill was there too, our executive counselor, and she spoke, and afterwards I said, Karen, the state's gonna get sued. And she said, but that's the New Hampshire way, Bibi. They wait until litigation happens. So. It's unfortunate, as Greg Sargent very well made the point, that that's $4.1 billion worth of value on Big Lake Sunapee that is $52 million worth of tax revenue to our 3 towns. And if there's a catastrophic event there, it's not good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it was, you know, hopefully it makes the papers or something. So, yeah. Okay. Meeting minutes. We've got the minutes of May 8th, May 12th, May 16th, May 22nd. Do either of you have any changes? No. I have one change that's been requested from the meeting minutes of May 8th to change language. It's the section where Putnam was talking about the Elkins Beach structure. There's a line that says where Selectman Kidder asks Mr. Kidder when he learned that the structure was not safe. Mr. Kidder noted that he became aware of it during the 2024 preseason spring inspection. The line after that says, at that time, the Recreation Commission began talking to playground manufacturers and other ADA resources in the fall of 2024. A request has been made to change that line to say, at that time, he began talking to playground manufacturers and other ADA resources and informing the Recreation Commission of his findings starting in the fall of 2024. Are you both okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay. So I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of May 8th, May 12th, May 16th, and May 22nd. As amended, thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, that's all we've got. The upcoming meetings, we've got the special town meeting that we talked about earlier on Wednesday, June 18th, starting at 5, and then the regular selectmen's meeting will be right after that, starting at 5:30. We've got a citizens committee coming up Saturday morning, June 7th, Housing Commission, June 9th, at the Professional Development Center at 2:30, Bicycle and Pedestrian, Thursday, June 19th, Conservation Commission, Wednesday, June 18th, and they also spoke in favor supporting Newbury Conservation Commission yesterday, too. Board of Fire Wards, June 23rd, and Waste Reduction Committee, June 26th. And that is it. And I guess we'll sign stuff. All right. Thank you.